Hi, I'm Devin Purgason, Associate Vice President for Student Experience, Marketing, and Outreach at Forsyth Technical Community College. For this Pulse Check episode, we're sharing highlights from my lightning session at the 2026 AI Engage Summit. We'll dig into how adult learners are already using AI to search for programs, why most institutions are invisible in those results, what we built at Forsyth Tech to change that, and what you can do to start doing this work this week. Let's jump in. Today, I want us to talk about a specific student segment, and that's adult learners, and the way that they're showing up looking for their programs right now, because a lot of that has changed. And I would say that most of us have not caught up. So let me set the scene here. It's 10 o'clock. It's a Tuesday night. There's a 38-year-old medical assistant in Winston-Salem, and she's been thinking about going back to school for 2 years, but her kids are finally old enough that she's got some breathing room. So tonight she's going to sit on her couch. She opens ChatGPT and she types in, what's the fastest way to get a healthcare credential near me while working full time? She doesn't Google. She doesn't go to our website. She asks AI. And your institution either shows up in that answer or it doesn't. So I want to show you some data. And this isn't just, an anecdote. UPCEA, the University Professionals and Continuing Education Association, they published a study last October, and it was fascinating. It was showing that 50% of prospective students now use AI weekly to research their programs, and 79% read Google's AI overviews before they even click on anything. And AI's usage in college search has gone from 4% in 2023 to 23% in 2025. And that number is projected to hit 40% by the end of the year, and maybe even more. We also see that 67% of financial aid chatbots, the interactions, they're happening not during business hours, but outside of them, which makes sense. Because these are adult learners, they have jobs. They're not calling your office at 2 p.m. They're researching at 10 p.m. after the kids go to bed, right? And here's the thing that you should keep, that should keep you up at night. 69% of Google searches now are 0-click. That means that the user gets an answer without ever having to visit your site. That AI overview at the top of the page, that is where the answer lives now. So in reality, your website is below the fold. So here's the big picture. If the AI can't find you, neither can your students. So where does this leave us? Only 30% of institutions have any kind of formal strategy for showing up in AI search results. 70% say that they haven't gotten to it yet. Competing priorities, there's limited bandwidth. Meanwhile, adult learners have over 25 declined 15.5% in fall 2025. And community colleges took about 40% of that hit. So we're losing the exact population that we should be winning. And part of the reason is that we're invisible in the places that folks are actually looking. So I want to talk about what we've built at Forsyth Tech. At Forsyth Tech, we decided to stop waiting around, and we decided that we were going to build what I call a program discovery stack, and it has 3 different pieces to it. So the first one is we replaced the search bar on our website with conversational AI. This is through Element 451. It's called Bolt Discovery. And instead of typing into a search box and, a term and getting a list of pages, students can ask real questions like, I work nights. What can I do part-time? I want something in healthcare that takes less than a year. And it gives them actual program matches. And it shows them cost, timelines, next steps. It's not just a list of links. It has answers for them. The second piece is this, and I think this is one that most people in the room haven't tackled yet. We restructured our web content so that programs show up in AI results. ChatGPT, Perplexity, Google AI overviews, those are huge. We built schema markups for every single program page using educational, occupational, credential, and course schemas. Okay. And we can talk about that later. I only have 15 minutes, so we could talk about that for a long time. But I'll have my contact information at the end, so you can definitely reach out and we can chat about that. So we front loaded the first 50 words of every program page with the specific information that AI systems pull from when they generate answers. So, that includes outcomes, cost, duration, requirement, all of the things that student learners actually want to know. And then we started creating content that targets the natural language questions that adults actually ask. Now we talk about our programs, not how we talk about our programs internally, how students talk about what they need. And then finally, the third piece is monitoring. Very important. We use tools to audit how AI systems are referencing Forsyth Tech, what programs are surfacing, what information is being cited, where the gaps are, because this stuff changes constantly. An AI overview that shows you this, what that shows you this week might not show you the same thing next week. So you have to keep your finger on the pulse of monitoring. So what happened when we made our programs AI findable, right? Well, we had a lot of great stats that I just want to brag on the college for. I'm not going to say that this is the reason that happened. Obviously, some of these took years to complete, but we did hit a 10-year enrollment, a high, 11.7% increase. Our prospect to applicant conversion rate is now 31%. Discovery hit a 25% conversion rate in its first 3 weeks. BoltBot on our team, it handles 79% of inquiries on its own, and it saved our team over 183,000 minutes of human time. So that's real time back in the hands of real humans who can now sit with a student who's nervous about coming to school instead of answering the same 10 questions on repeat. And I want to be honest about this. I can't isolate exactly what piece of the stack caused this results, but they feed each other, right? The North Carolina Community College system, they looked at what we were doing and they recommended Element 451 to all 58 colleges statewide. So something is working, right? And look, AI didn't replace our team. It freed them. And that is the part that matters. So what's next? Well, that's what we built. But I want to spend the last few minutes talking about where this is headed because AI-powered program discovery is still, I would say, in its early stages, right? So, the frontier. There are a few things on my radar that I think are going to change how adult learners find and enter programs within the next couple of years. And we're starting to work on these parts at Forsyth Tech, but I think that there's a lot of proliferation and schools need to be thinking about these things. The first one, credit for prior learning. Kale has data that shows adults who get credit for their work experience are 17% more likely to graduate and save 9 to 14 months. However, only 10% of adult learner students currently get any credit for prior learning experience. 84% of likely enrollees say the ability to get credit for what they already know would be significantly influential with the school that they choose. That is a massive opportunity. AI can match a person's work history to credit eligibility at scale. And that's something that did not used to be possible. The second one, stackable micro pathways. Over 100 community colleges are now offering stackable credentials that can finish in under a year. Workforce Pell launches in July 2026, which means short-term programs are now becoming eligible for federal financial aid for the very first time. That's a game changer for adults who need to return on their investment very, very quickly. But the discovery challenge is real. If adults don't know that these programs exist, these credentials, they don't matter. So we have to make these pathways visible in places where adults are searching. And then I think the longer term play, George Siemens at SNHU wrote about this in an EDUCAUSE review last November. He called it the N of one precision learning. The idea that 20 learners in the same program could follow 20 different AI generated pathways to mastery based on their individual work history, their existing skills, their career goals, their life circumstances. That's early stage, but the direction is clear. AI is not intending just to help students find programs. I think programs will start finding the adults. So something that's also very important to us that I think is we have to say is the importance of retention. And here's why. All of this matters way beyond enrollment. UPCA, they published a study February 4th, just last week, called The Retention Disconnect. And they found that 48% of institutional leaders cannot confidently report their online retention rate. And institutions are investing in structured oversight and check-in alerts. Adult learners, they actually want flexibility, autonomy, self-service tools, and control over their own pace. So there's a mismatch here. So when AI helps an adult learner find the truly right program from the start, matched to their schedule, their experience, their goals, you've solved part of that retention problem before they even enroll. So program discovery is about enrollment play, is not just enrollment play, it's retention play. And most of us aren't treating it that way. So what can you do? What can you do here? Here's your playbook, right? What can you do this week, this quarter, this year? So I want to leave you with something that you can actually do because, I know how these talks go. You hear a bunch of ideas, you think that sounds great, and then you go back to your desk and you look at your inbox. And so let me make it concrete, all right? This week, today even, how about you open ChatGPT or Perplexity or Google and look at the AI overview. Search the questions that your adult learners would ask. What's the fastest nursing program near me? How do I go back to school when I'm 35? See if your institution shows up. You might be completely invisible, and that's important to know. Then build a custom GPT, just like Brian mentioned. Load it with your program catalog, your FAQs, your admissions requirements. Test it with your team. You could do a free version, but if you paid for it, it's $20 a month. And you could have that thing running by Friday. This quarter, here's some things for you to do. Add the schema markup to every program page on your website. Like I mentioned, educational, occupational, credential. Front load the first 50 words with the outcomes, cost, and requirements that AI systems actually pull from, and deploy conversational search on your site. Replace the keyword search box. No one's using that when there's something that actually gives them answers to their questions. And then I would say in this year, start exploring some credit for prior learning tools. Look at how you can design stackable micro-credentials that adult learners can actually find quickly and build on over time. Build the on-ramps and make sure that the on-ramps are findable. Thanks for listening to this Pulse Check episode. If you'd like to go deeper, be sure to check out the full lightning session replay from the AI Engage Summit. And if you're thinking about how to make your programs findable in AI search results, I'd love for you to take one idea from this episode and put it into action on your campus or workplace. Thanks again for tuning in.
Thanks for listening to the Higher Ed Pulse. The show is a proud member of the Enrollify Network, home to Higher Ed's largest collection of podcasts. Enrollify is where higher ed goes to grow, so be sure to check out our other podcasts, webinars, video clips, blogs, and more. Visit Enrollify.org and subscribe for all the latest details and content drops directly to your inbox. Enrollify is brought to you by Element 451, the digital workforce platform for higher ed. Learn more at element451.com.